I want you to imagine a woman named Elena. Elena is 32. She has a decent job, and she is tired of being fine. For years, she's lived in a state of financial suspension. She isn't in a crisis, but she isn't moving forward either. Every time she manages to scrape together $1,000, something happens. The tires on her car go bald. Her best friend has a destination wedding. A crown on her tooth cracks. And just like that, the $1,000 is gone. She feels like she's trying to climb a sand dune. For every 2 steps up, she slides 1.5 steps back. She begins to believe that people with $10,000 in the bank must simply be lucky, or born with a level of discipline she was denied. She looks at her tiny savings and thinks, "What's the point? This isn't even enough for a down payment. I might as well enjoy my life today." Elena doesn't realize it yet, but she's trapped in the hardest phase of the wealth-building journey. She isn't fighting a lack of money. She's fighting the gravity of her own history. Hi, I'm Rabbi Soul. Together, we'll decode the ultimate laws of money, helping you understand the root of wealth and master the financial game. Most people think the first $10,000 is a math problem. They think it's about finding a better high-yield savings account or cutting out the occasional latte. But if math were the solution, we'd all be wealthy. We all know how to add and subtract. No, the first $10,000 isn't a financial milestone. It is a psychological crucible. It is the period where you have to undergo a total personality transplant. We've been conditioned by a multi-billion-dollar advertising industry to believe that our value is defined by our flow, by what we consume, what we wear, and where we travel. Society rewards the consumer. Your friends celebrate the new car. Your family admires the new house. No one throws you a party because you hit $5,000 in a brokerage account. In fact, the path to that first $10,000 is often invisible and lonely. Most of us fundamentally misunderstand why this stage is so difficult. We think we're failing because we don't see the compounding everyone talks about. But here's the cold reality. At the start, there is no compounding. If you have $500 and it grows by 10%, you have $55. That $50 doesn't change your life. It doesn't feel like wealth. It feels like a rounding error. This is why the first $10,000 is the valley of death for most savers. It requires 100% effort for what feels like 1% results. We struggle not because we are bad with money, but because we are human beings wired to seek immediate feedback, and the first $10,000 provides almost none. To understand why this is so painful, we have to look at the concept of escape velocity. Think of a rocket sitting on a launch pad. To get into orbit, that rocket has to burn about 90% of its fuel just to clear the first few miles of the Earth's atmosphere. It is fighting the immense, invisible pull of gravity. Once it's in space, it can travel thousands of miles with almost no effort at all. Your financial life works the same way. The gravity you are fighting is a combination of your upbringing, your social circle, and your own biological impulses. From a young age, most of us were taught that money is a tool for acquisition. We saw our parents work hard so they could buy things. We learned that the reward for labor is consumption. This is the consumer brain. It views a dollar as something to be traded for a thrill, a comfort, or a status symbol. When you decide to save your first $10,000, you are essentially trying to tell your brain to stop breathing. You are asking your survival-oriented mind to ignore a present-day need for the sake of a theoretical future. The first $3,000 is usually the hardest part of the climb. This is the stage of total deprivation. You're saying no to dinners, you're driving the older car, and your bank balance still looks like a joke. You feel the phantom itch to spend. You look at that $3,000 and think, I could go to Mexico for a week with this. I could buy that new sofa. At this stage, the money has no utility other than being not spent. It doesn't provide security yet, and it certainly doesn't provide freedom. It's just a number that represents all the things you didn't do. As you move toward $5,000, you hit the midpoint blues. This is where the initial excitement of the New Year, New Me resolution wears off. You've been disciplined for months, but your life looks exactly the same. You're still in the same apartment. You're still working the same job. This is the danger zone. This is where most people cave and buy the reward for their hard work. They tell themselves they've earned a treat, not realizing that the treat is the very thing that will pull them back down the sand dune. Psychologically, what's happening is a conflict of identities. You are trying to move from being a consumer, someone whose ego is fed by what they have, to an accumulator, someone whose peace of mind is fed by what they own. The accumulator understands that a dollar is not a piece of paper. It is a life hour. If you earn $25 an hour, a $100 pair of shoes isn't just $100. It's 4 hours of your life that you will never get back. When you start viewing money through the lens of time ownership, the first $10,000 takes on a different meaning. It's not just $10,000. It's 3 months of your life that no one else owns. It's the ability to say no to a toxic boss. It's the ability to sleep through the night when the economy wobbles. But getting your brain to believe that potential freedom is better than actual shoes is a feat of mental gymnastics that requires more than just a budget. It requires a fundamental shift in what makes you feel safe. The turning point usually happens somewhere around the $7,000 or $8,000 mark. It's subtle at first. It's the day the car makes a strange noise, and instead of feeling that familiar, icy spike of adrenaline in your chest, you just feel annoyed. You realize that even if the repair costs $500, you're going to be okay. You have the money. The crisis has been downgraded to an inconvenience. This is the moment the accumulator identity takes root. You realize that the money in your account isn't a pile of unspent stuff. It's a shield. For the first time in your adult life, you aren't living on the edge of a cliff. You begin to value the feeling of the shield more than the fleeting hit of dopamine from a new purchase. This realization fundamentally changes your decision-making. You stop asking, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" and start asking, "Is this worth my freedom?" You begin to see the world through the eyes of an owner. You look at a business and think about its profit margins rather than its products. You look at your bank account and don't see a spending limit, but a runway. Once you hit $10,000, something magical happens. The gravity starts to weaken. You've proven to yourself that you are the kind of person who can defer gratification. You've built the muscle. And more importantly, you've reached a point where the math finally starts to help you, even if it's just a little. That $10,000, tucked away in a decent investment, might earn you $60 or $70 a month. It's not much, but for the first time, you didn't have to trade your sweat for that money. It just appeared. The turning point is the transition from "I work for money" to "My money is starting to learn how to work for me." This is the psychological jailbreak. Once you've done it for $10,000, you know you can do it for $20, for $50, for $100. The first $10,000 is the hardest because it's the only one that requires you to change who you are. How do we practically navigate this valley of death? It starts by accepting that your willpower is a finite resource. You cannot white-knuckle your way to $10,000 while being bombarded by ads and social pressure. You have to build a system that protects you from yourself. First, I want you to embrace the Rule of 48. When you feel that impulsive urge to buy something over a certain threshold, say $50, you must wait 48 hours before clicking Buy. In those 2 days, your primitive, dopamine-seeking brain will cool down. Your logical, accumulator brain will wake up and ask, does this purchase help me buy back my time, or is it just another anchor? Most of the time, the urge will simply evaporate. Second, you must automate your freedom tax. If you wait until the end of the month to see what's left, the answer will always be zero. Your life will expand to swallow every dollar you give it. You must set up an automatic transfer that happens the moment your paycheck hits. You need to hide that money from your consumer brain. If you never see it in your checking account, you won't count it as available to spend. Third, you need to find a new tribe, or at least a new set of influences. If everyone you follow on social media is showing off a lifestyle you can't afford, you are constantly triggering your survival-based status anxiety. Unfollow the flex culture. Start listening to voices that value simplicity, intentionality, and long-term thinking. You need to normalize the act of saving. You need to feel like the person who has $10,000 is cooler than the person who has the newest phone. Fourth, celebrate the invisible wins. When you hit $1,000, buy yourself a small coffee and sit in the park for an hour, reflecting on the fact that you are now slightly more free than you were yesterday. When you hit $5,000, take a moment to realize that you are in the top percentage of people in terms of financial resilience. These aren't just numbers, they are milestones of your personal evolution. Treat them with the respect they deserve. Finally, keep the big why in front of you. $10,000 isn't the goal. The goal is the person you become on the way to that $10,000. The goal is the calm you feel when the boss is yelling. The goal is the choice you have when a new opportunity arises. Remind yourself that you aren't missing out on life. You are buying in to a better version of it. If you're standing at the bottom of that sand dune right now, looking at a balance that feels insignificant, I want you to know that I see you. I know how heavy the gravity feels. I know how tempting it is to just let go and slide back down into the comfort of consumption. But I promise you, the view from the top of that first $10,000 is worth every no you have to say today. You aren't just saving money, you are saving yourself. You are proving that you are the master of your impulses, not their servant. Don't worry about the millions right now. Don't worry about the complex spreadsheets or the perfect investment. Just focus on the next $100. Focus on the next no. Focus on the feeling of your own growing strength. The first 10,000 is the hardest lesson because it's the one that breaks the chains. Once those chains are gone, you'll realize that the sky was never the limit. Your own belief was. Take it one day at a time. Be patient with the process. Progress is more important than perfection. You're doing better than you think, and I'll be here to help you through the next law.